So the first YouTuber that I am going to copy, this is Deidre, and the name of her channel is Our Upcycled Life. And she is a real recycler from thrift stores and yard sales and anything she can find along the side of the street. So I hurried down to my thrift store and I found some glass bowls and some vases and some candlestick holders and some plates. So I'm going to, as I always do, I'm going to clean off everything that's glass with alcohol. And these two plates are not from the thrift store, they're from the Dollar Tree. And they are microwave plates, but I'm going to glue them together because they're kind of flimsy, so I'm going to put them together to make them a little bit more sturdy. I'm going to paint everything that I have with the white plaster chalk paint. I'm going to use the baby wipes to try and make it look like wood. You can see my E6000 is all gone. I thought I had another tube of it, but I didn't. I'm going to use a leveler to try and make sure everything's level. And I also have this gorgeous tin tray, which I guess I went by too fast, that I got at the thrift store. So the first thing I'm doing is using that fix-all that you can get at Dollar Tree. It's usually like in the hardware section, and it works really well, although I really like my E6000. You should have that around the house for all kinds of things. It really works well. Glass, plastic, wood, anything. That E6000 is great. You can't really get it at Dollar Tree. I don't think I've ever seen it there, but you can get it at Home Depot and Lowe's and Michael's. So the vases I showed you, I paid $2 each for those. That little glass bowl I paid 50 cents for. That tray that you can see down below, it's beautiful. It's just tin, but it looks like it's all carved. I paid $1 for it. And of course those two microwave plates, I paid $1.25 for both of them at Dollar Tree. So I'm cleaning everything off with my alcohol, get off all the fingerprints and oils from people handling stuff, and that way the paint adheres a little bit better. Okay, so I'm doing that. I'm going to wipe off the tray too. You'll get a better look at the tray in a few minutes. Those vases are glass and they are heavy. They are really heavy. Now there's holes on the bottom. That one still has the little bit of velvet on the bottom, but I'm going to take that off because I'm gluing everything together using the lids, the lips of the lids and the bottoms to hold it together. I end up only using 2 of those vases. Okay, so now I'm ready to start with my white plaster. See there, you can see all the pretty design around the tray. So I'm coating everything with the white, with a plaster colored chalk paint. Okay, so the reason why I'm using the chalk paint is because it gives a really good base and it will allow the antique wax to take hold. And you can get chalk paint at any of the craft stores and Walmart. So now I'm painting the vases, and they already had like a wood grain on them, so I was careful to do the plaster paint with the wood grain, which was up and down. So now you can see I'm starting to use the antique wax, the Waverly Antique Wax, which you can get at any of the craft stores and Walmart, where you get the chalk paint. And I'm like lightly brushing that on, and I'm trying to get into all the little nooks and crannies of the design because my intent is to try and make it look like wood. So I'm just kind of working that in, and you can see I've done the one vase already, and I've gone up and down with the antique wax, and I'll tell you more about that in just a minute. So, but I'm working on that aluminum tray, just trying to go through the nooks and cranny and try and make it look like wood. So you can see I'm kind of dabbing my brush off on my paper towel to get off some of the wax so I don't go on too heavy. And then I'm using the baby wipe to take some off. Now, here's a tip. First of all, when you're doing it, let your baby wipe dry out a little bit. Take it and pat it down on a paper towel and take some of the wetness off so it doesn't remove all of your antique wax. And also, if you're taking it on glass, let the antique wax sit on your glass for a little while. Okay, here's the plastic dishes, the microwave dishes, and that didn't work as well. That was a little harder to do. And also, I found some of those wooden beads, and I decided to put a row of wooden beads I hot glued around those plates. I decided they were kind of plain, so I just took some hot glue and did a row of wooden beads around those plates. Okay, so tip number 1, when you're using a baby wipe to take some of the antique wax off, kind of pat it so it's not too wet. Number 2, let your glass dry before you start taking the antique wax off. And number 3, crumple up your baby wipe when you're taking off the antique wax, because then you'll get different textures when you're trying to take off the wax and it won't be all smooth. Okay, so you'll see where I have my baby wipe all crumpled up as I'm going up and down and around with the baby wipe to take off some of the antique wax to make it look like wood. It's much better than having your baby wipe smooth. Crumple it all up, and that works better. Okay, you can see now that I'm gluing on the with the Fix-It-All glue the vases onto the plastic plates and onto the aluminum tray. And you do have to let these set overnight. There's just no way around it. It takes all night long for these things to dry. And it's easy. This step is easy. You can figure out where the center is. But after this, it gets a little bit more complicated, but you can do it. Okay, I took the 2 bottom tiers over to the kitchen counter to let them dry all night where no one would knock them over. There's the bowl. It's going to go on the very top. Off camera, I glued the bottom 2 tiers together, and then I found my E6000 glue and glued the bowl on the very top, which I will show you. It was kind of hard to glue the 2 tiers together because I didn't have it. I was done by eyeballing it, and I ran around the counter like a fool trying to see if I had it straight. I did the best I could. You'll see the end result in just a minute. And I got the glass bowl on top, and that's the end of craft number 1. On to craft number 2. Okay, so I'm off on the timing here, but this one is from Liz from Happiness is Homemade 4. And I went to the Dollar Tree and I got that pretty little scallop plate, and that's a glass plate that I got at the thrift store for 50 cents. Those are the 2 things I'm going to use to make this tier tray. I'm going to paint the plastic plate with plaster, and then I'm going to paint it with my acrylic petunia paint, and I'm going to use, okay, that's my Fix-All adhesive, but in the meantime I found my E6000, and I forgot to show you my little candlestick that I'm going to use. There's my glue gun. I had a candlestick, a glass candlestick that I'd got at the Dollar Tree a long time ago, in the good old days when things were $1. Okay, so I'm going to take the paper off the little scalloped plastic plate. It's a cake plate that I got at the Dollar Tree. It was in the wedding section. So I've painted it with the plaster, and now I've painted it 2 coats with the acrylic paint. Covered it very well. Okay, you can see in the background my little, there I found my E6000. I was so happy. My glass candlestick that I got at the Dollar Tree. You can usually find them. If you can't, when you do find them, grab them and put them in your stash, because sometimes they disappear for months at a time. And so I'm going to glue the candlestick down on the plastic plate. I had measured it and drawn a hexagon around it and measured it all around to make sure it was centered. And I had also E6000, that little glass plate for 50 cents from the thrift store, on top of the candlestick. So there it's sitting, and I'm going to let that dry overnight. And that is my two-tiered tray. Now come on, you can do that. Look how easy that was. So easy, anyone could do that. And I'm going to use it as an Easter gift. Okay, this is how I made it dry overnight. I put 4 heavy ceramic silver cereal bowls on it and let it dry overnight. As I said, I'm going to use it as an Easter gift. You know, you could put Easter candy on it, a little pot of flowers, maybe some hand cream. If you have a teenage daughter, niece, granddaughter, you could go to Dollar Tree and get all kinds of neat stuff to put on it. Instead of an Easter basket, you could give a two-tiered tray. And you could do that. Okay, let's have a final reveal. This is the 3-tiered tray with the bowl on top, the 2 glass vases, and the 2 trays. And here's the 2-tiered tray with the pretty glass plate, the crystal glass candlestick holder, and the purple bottom tray. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Thanks so much for joining me today. Remember, if you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. And I hope to see you again at Nona's Here.